Welcome back to the Contacts Coaching Podcast. We're joined today by Amani Walker, who is the athletic director at Mater Dei Catholic in San Diego. Or actually, I think Chula Vista, but you can correct me on that. And it's been a long time trying to pin this fella down. So glad that we're here.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, take us through your background, coach. How did you get into coaching, being an athletic administrator, all those things that have happened once the ball stopped bouncing for you? Start at the beginning, way back machine.
Yeah, so I'm born and raised San Diego. I was been a part of athletics all my life. Both my parents played college sports, and I have two younger sisters, older brother. Everybody played something. And so when it came down to like, all right, what are you actually going to choose? Soccer was just the one that stuck out. But you play everything growing up, except for baseball. I played one season of t-ball, and my parents got so bored that they took me out of it. It wasn't even that I didn't like it. They just didn't like it playing. Other
Hey,
than
really
that,
quickly before you
yeah,
finish the
yeah,
story, I'm laughing because I did the same thing with my son.
that's
It
what I'm
was
saying.
like 2 years. It was like, we're going to play lacrosse.
That's it. Now I'm over it. Like it's just this is my future. That's what my dad pretty much said. This is my I have to watch this. Is now we're gonna figure something else out. And that was it. And so when we moved into the club world, basketball and soccer stuck out. And for some reason, not for some reason, my dad is Jamaican, so that's probably the reason. Soccer was the one that won. And once I truly like put my head to it, and I made a pretty good team here in San Diego. I had a little bit of success, and that success steamrolled once I grew to 6'2". Got recruited to a bunch of different California colleges and some back east, but I chose to go to UC Irvine. And I went to UC Irvine. I went to Francis Parker High School, so I'll mention that too, because that'll be relevant later. But I went to UC Irvine, played 4 years there, then got drafted in the MLS, went to the combine, ended up signing with Minnesota, played about 5, 6 years of ball, had two ACL surgeries in there, and then my career went semi-pro at about 26. And in that time, I was always drawn back to Parker. Just it was a good place for me, for school. I love the people there, the teachers, the coaches, everybody that I had. And so when I played pro my first year, I went back and I coached in that winter time because it was the off season for the pro leagues. And once I went back, I had a really good time. I was doing middle school and JV B, like it was nothing. And then that next year, there was a change in the varsity coach situation, and the new coach said, "Hey, I want you to be my varsity assistant." And I ended up staying and being a part of that program for the next 12 years. I ended up becoming head coach after about 6 years, was then full time at Francis Parker doing facilities and operations work. And that's where I met Anthony Thomas, who, you and I know really well, but he's an incredible athletic administrator. He had just made his way down to Francis Parker from the Bay Area. And he really took me under his wing, and my office was literally across the hall from his. So I heard every conversation, good or bad. We just had a really good time, and I did learning from him, especially through that COVID period when there was nobody on campus, but we were still trying to make things work and increase my affinity, my joy for athletic administration, just administration in general. And I thought this was something I really could do. At Parker, I think I hit a glass ceiling, and I felt like I wasn't going to be able to grow there anymore. Went to Concordia, got my master's in coaching and athletic administration, and literally as soon as I turned in my final paper, the job at Mater Dei Catholic opened up. And I went and applied for it, used all those tools that I had for that, and I got the job. And so I've now been here since July. So my first year there, and I love it. It's been wonderful. All the people are amazing. I have incredible support. The student athletes are great, coaches, everybody. Yeah, I'm really happy with my choice, and I hope to be here for a long time and just in athletic administration for a long time.
Oh, I'm so excited because we got stuff to talk about because you're new at what we're doing, which I
Yes.
love. And that was the genesis of this a long time ago, was supposed to be a digital database of mentorship for us as coaches, for us
Yeah.
as ADs, for our whole network of anyone that just wants information. And so I love this. So I'm going to dive into a place we normally start when you went from assistant to the head coach,
Yeah.
soccer,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
what did you realize right away that you still needed to figure out? I played
Yeah.
pro, I went played college, I've got all the credentials,
Yeah.
and I'm going to move 18 inches over on the proverbial bench, and
Yeah.
things changed. So what is it that you were like ready, but you're not really?
I was lucky enough to be doing a lot of practices and game preparation, right? So with my background, I was running practices. My coach would come to me and say, "Hey, I want to run something that looks like this." I said, "Cool, we got it." And the difference then becomes I think there's three: in-game management, right? So now you're talking about substitutions, tactical changes, all of that stuff where before I might have had an influence in, you're not the final decision maker, right? So those type of things. The other administrative work, right? Setting schedules, going, doing all that kind of stuff, whether it's a uniform or roster cuts or all of that stuff. I think making a cut to a roster or picking out your team is administrative work just as much as anything else, right? You are creating something essentially from scratch and you're trying to build into something that's your own. And I mentioned the third one, but it's the buck stops with you. And I think I honestly, I think it really helped me prepare me for this job that I'm in now because if I make a decision dealing with a parent, if I make a decision dealing with a kid, if I choose to play a kid for 5 minutes or 50 minutes, that is my decision and I have to stand by it and I have to be comfortable in that decision. It may be the wrong decision, but I still made it, right? So that's mine. And I think understanding that culpability, which is not as an attack, but as an acceptance of who you are and you're being secure, and that's going to, you could be I was a pretty good coach with really good players. I was still a pretty good coach with really not good players, right? So all of that on the field stuff, that doesn't really matter. It's who you are and how you're teaching them. And a lot of that goes to your integrity and who you're trying to be every single day. So, that 18 inches moved over, it didn't feel uncomfortable, but it was like, oh, okay, hold on. I actually have to do this, right? There's no anybody else I can pawn this off to soften the blow. If a parent's going to come to me and be upset because I didn't let them go to the next sport, even though we were in a play, then it's my decision. Simple as that. It's just my decision. And that's hard to swallow for some people. It's hard to understand from others, but it's something that I learned quickly, and I don't feel like I've really backed down from that.
No, I love that. And I think the line, let's say, that I've thrown out there over the years doing this is you go from a recommending body to a decision maker.
I like that.
And all of a sudden, I tell people all the time when it's like, why don't the school do this? And it's, listen, I'm a recommending body. Objection, overruled. Cool.
Overruled.
I'm
All
out.
right, cool. I'm done. I'm
That's right.
done. Did my job to recommend what I wanted. Now
Yep.
your turn to make the choice.
Yep. Okay. Same
Yeah.
question as you moved into the athletic director seat. So I played at the highest level. I played at a university level. I
Yeah.
came back and was working in facilities. I was coaching. I had great mentorship, one of the greats across the hall. I've got a degree in sports management, and now I'm in charge. What
That's
did
it.
you realize right away that it was like, oh, Anthony didn't show me this?
Yeah. I think maybe I'm different because I'm blessed that I did see everything that Anthony did. And I won't say I was surprised by anything, but I think the thing that's been the most challenging is getting everybody on board and going into speaking in front of kids and speaking in front of adults is a much different thing. And as much as the coaches claim that the kids aren't listening to them, the coaches don't return emails just as much as the kids don't respond to their posts that they need to do in school. But I think for me, the challenge has been implementing a culture, right? Having my idea and trying to do something. And whether it's new or whether it's being consistent in what's already been done. I told my coaches in the first meeting that I had, I want to do one of three things for each one of their programs and maybe divvy it up between all of them. Elevate, enhance, or refine. And so when you're talking about taking something that's really good, I'm going to elevate, I'm going to celebrate that. That's going to be something that we're going to show for everyone. Our softball team, they come dressed to the nines. They're ranked number one in San Diego County right now. They do everything really well because it's a championship culture, right? Now, I might not like the way that another program sends out messages. We're cross-border school. We have a lot of WhatsApp groups with parents and this and that. Communication isn't that great. So how can I refine that system and create a scheduling and a messaging system that works for everybody so that one, it's cohesive across all programs, but it takes the burden off of coaches that they're trying to sift through a message or an email trying to figure out, right? So how can I enhance things, celebrate things, refine things, elevate it to the point that we're all on the same level? And I think that's a culture thing, right? So when you have a school like Mater Dei where there were so many good things that have been happening, just sports wise. Before I even got there, they had won 5 CF championships in San Diego that year before. They were doing really good back-to-back football state championships. Even this year, our girls basketball lost in the state final up in Sacramento this year. There's so much, my principal and I say there's good bones there, right? Just how do you flesh it out? So if that structure is already there, what can I do to enhance that culture to make everybody feel like not one, they're a part of it, right? I don't think our school spirit's that great. I want to implement some kind of athlete supporting athletes type stuff. We don't really have a good student athlete leadership group, so I introduced SALT, Student Athlete Leadership Council and team, excuse me. We're doing all of these things, but it's just getting people on board, getting people to buy in. And me being so fresh at this, not only in the school, but just within the job, but understanding how it should look, um, getting us to that point. I know it's going to be my challenge for my next 2 years, 3 years, right? Until I have a crop that understands from freshman year on. And once the kids buy in and the coaches buy in, there's no limit to how good we can be, how great we can be in every single sport.
So as you're trying to move the needle a little bit on some of these things, right? And I'm sure there are some areas that you got to do a little bit more trench work. What would you say was the best thing you did as a coach in your soccer program that's transferable, right? That you can offer to others that, hey, you know what? This worked really well to create the culture I was looking for. And therefore, I'm now recommending football coach that maybe, hey, try this out.
Yeah.
Just see what happens. What are some of those things that you did over there that you're bringing with you? And not trying to like square peg round hole, but just things that you can offer to the listenership as far as like these things are transformational as you're trying to build culture.
Yeah, I think culture building is so much relational, right? Yeah. When I left Parker, I told my soccer boys and they had wanted to have one last summer kick around, they call it, just basically captain's practice. And they had asked me to come. And so I said, all right, there was guys in suits that came, right? Who were just around, Coach, I got to go to work, but I heard you're leaving. I just want to thank you, all this stuff. And when I started to look back, it's like, why are you coming back? Like we played soccer and that was it. I think it was the relationships that I built with them, right? I was on campus. That helps out a lot, as we all know. Just being able to see a kid at lunch before school in the passing period, all of that stuff. But when I look back and I try to figure out how I created that culture, I try to talk to every single kid every single day. I think that was a big one for me, just building that relationship, whether you're 1 or 22 on my team. If you're gonna, they need to know not only where they're at on the field, but where they are in relationship to you and know those two things are separate. How you could have the worst game in the world and you come off, you're still that same person before those 80 minutes started than after those 80 minutes started. So he has to know that I still love him for who he is. And that's the relationship that we're building. I think I was also a good personality and like teaching wise. I understood how to break the game down at different levels. And I think that kind of went to that relationship piece. Other than that, we always try to do one activity, right? Whether it's just going to a house where we're trying to go bowling. We were doing other games where we played futsal or we did soccer tennis. We had fun games within building teams within the teams. We built a team culture where everybody who's new to the team had to sing a song, right? So that was like a big thing, right? It was just about building a fun and competitive culture. But you can't do that if you don't know who your kids are. And so when I go and I'm talking to my water polo coach, right? She knows who all our kids are. She's on campus. She does the thing. She knows exactly what class they're in, where they hang out, who they hang out with. And now all of those girls, they love her, right? They're drawn to her because our volleyball coach, both boys and girls, they come over and they hang out in our office because she's around. Those are the things. When you're dealing now with an off-campus coach, they have to put in extra effort to build those relationships. If your practice starts at 4, try to get there at 3 if you can, right? If you can do that, push your practice to 5 and then get there at 4. Build something with your team, right? In order to be able to meet with them as they're stretching, go and talk to them. You might not be able to talk to them in depth every single day, but just asking how a test went, if there's anything coming up. Did your girlfriend break up with you this week? Those things you have to know because if you're going to lead a group without knowing who they are and what their intricacies, right, and their tendencies are, then you're never going to lead them properly. So I've tried to do that with my team now that I have at Modern Day of administrators in my office. And I've let my coaches know that every single time. Know why you're there and then implement that every single day.
No, it's great. And if the follow-up is ultimately now that you're at a new place and you're probably spending a ton of time on the ground, wandering around, observing, talking to the coaches, talking to the athletes, trying to figure out what's going on. What have you learned from those other programs and teams that you're warehousing for yourself in the event you coach again and that you're offering to their colleagues, being like, hey, the tennis team did this yesterday. It was really powerful. You might want to check this out.
Yeah, I think just having a plan, right? I think that's just the biggest thing. It's the times that we're successful, there is a plan and there's a plan in place. Everybody can go and watch a football practice, right? And it's down to the minute, right, of what the plan is and how they're practicing and the whole thing. That might not happen in a soccer practice or it might not happen in lacrosse practice, right, where it might feel a little bit more free flowing. But I think the matching or exceeding the energy of the kids, right? So the kids can't be the one that try to get you up to coach, right? If you're there to do a job and you're there to coach for 90 minutes or 2 hours, whatever your practice length is, you have to bring that energy and the kids will respond in turn. Too often I've seen where maybe you've yelled too much or whatever, but whatever you're doing, you have to drag those kids along and bring that energy. And if the energy is start to drop, maybe it's time to move on to the next thing and we'll come back to it tomorrow. So I've seen that a few times in good and bad ways, right? Where I'm walking into a boys volleyball and they're playing one game, they love it. Coach says last point, but then like, no, three, no, I need this, I need that because they're into it. But if you're just doing drills without a purpose, like I saw on another team, by the time you say good, they just drop whatever and they just walk into there's no hustle to get to their thing because they don't really want to come back because they don't want to come and do what they were doing again. So I think matching that energy, creating just being creative in how you do the fundamentals and having a plan in order to do it. Those are the only 3 things that I've seen that work currently, and I know always will work. Now, how good you are tactically and how you prepare for the next game, those things will ebb and flow. You can't have a double day practice. Well, you can't have double days anyways, but you can't have a 4 hour long practice like we did in the old days and then come back and try to do it again. And you can't do that in August and in October, right? That's just not going to happen. You have to understand how to manage, right? You have to plan out your sessions. You know, you're going to have 3 games in a week if you're playing flag football. All right, maybe Monday's practice is a little bit lighter because I'm going to be doing all these things and teaching as I go. But no matter what you do, your energy that you bring to the team, it's going to be infectious. And so if you're moping around as a coach, you got no chance to bring those kids up. We're talking about 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, right? They know who you are, right? They can suss you out pretty quickly. So your energy has to exceed or match theirs in order to get anything done.
Yeah, no doubt. It's always sage wisdom to get reminded of that. And there are times when you don't have it, and sometimes you might just want to pull the plug that day.
That's
Just be
it.
like, you know what? This isn't going to be it. Let's go do something else.
So,
Let me, I'm very curious, and I think you're in such a unique situation geographically about the challenges that creates for you and what solutions you've had to figure out this year, and
yeah,
even historically, what some of those solutions are. Being that close to the border, being a school where I think you said 40% of the students live on the other side of the border.
just
What just talk a little bit about that because that's obviously different from where I'm at,
yeah,
and probably the majority of schools down where you're at as well.
yeah. it's such a cool thing to be able to see like cultures mixing. We were just in Tijuana the other day, and yeah, you're in a whole different country, but it's whether you want to call San Diego Tijuana North or San Diego or Tijuana San Diego South, it's a mix of cultures. Once you start to get further down the freeway, it blends. And I think a big part of that is in our culture, those kids who do come across, maybe they have their cliques because that's who they grew up with on the other side. But I think we do a really good job of making it seamless, right? So our TK through 8, our elementary, it's dual language, right? So half the days in English, half the days in Spanish. So we have a lot more of those students who are crossing the border each day because in theory, we're the closest private school in San Diego to the border. So it's very easy for them to get one to our school, but now they don't feel like they're missing out on anything. They're still learning their first language, they're learning a second language, and our kids are on this side are doing the same. So they're in that. Now, once we get into the high school, there's a big jump from the high school. There's 500 students in our whole elementary TK through 8. There's 1,200 in our high school 9 through 12, right? So we're taking a whole lot of students from around San Diego County and Mexico a little bit. A lot of parochial schools, local middle schools, some kids that come from East County and North County, whatever. But the culture of modern day still stays the same. There's still a heavily Mexican Latino population. You're walking through the courtyard, a lot of English, a lot of Spanish, right? And it comes to show in the style of play that we have in different ways, right? Our baseball team and our soccer team, even some of our volleyball players and stuff, it might be heavily Latino, Latinx, where football and softball, it just changes athletically. But we're still playing the same game. Our coaches are still doing a really good job of reaching out and not only being a part of their culture, touching them culturally, but also bringing them into who we are as a modern day community. Yeah, sure, a kid might need to leave a little bit early because he needs to cross the border or whatever it is. We had a basketball player on our girls team went all the way to state final. She drives an hour and a half just to get to the border, and then she crosses. She's an outstanding student. She's one of our starters for our basketball team. So that I think more than anything shows the level of commitment to who we are is because that's who they want. They want to be here, right? Maybe it is their parents, where the parents are paying money for them to be there. But if now she's as a senior, she's the one doing that drive and getting herself all the way to the border and then to campus, then that's who she wants to be here. And so we want to create a culture that they don't feel any different, any less. It's almost half the population. So if you're talking about who feels out like an outsider, there is nobody, right? Because we're all mixing into the same pot.
How far besides her
Yeah.
does the furthest student come from? Say in San Diego County or beyond, but north of the border. Like, how big is your reach?
So we don't pull too much from North County. And there's another Catholic school through the diocese that wears a red color red. I'm not going to mention them. So they're up there. There's another all boys and all girls kind of dual school, Catholic school. That's more Central County. We're in the one in the South Bay in Chula Vista. So I would say of our 1,200 students, probably 900 to 1,000 of them are in the South Bay or East County, which is pretty easy to get to. We do have some ones that are from North County or north of the 8 or whatever it is, but it's not many. And I think that also helps, right? Because a lot of those kids went to middle school together, elementary school together. If you're talking about parochial schools, right? Our Lady of Guadalupe, or wherever they come from, they all have seen each other throughout the years. And so now we had the highest incoming class of freshmen this past year, like 320-ish, let's just say 300 some change. A lot of those freshmen had already knew each other from different things. We only brought in of our own eighth graders less than 40. So that's a lot of kids from around the county that just have, I'm sure they know each other, but really that county is just that South Bay, Chula Vista, south of the 8.
It's so fascinating.
A little bit different than y'all up there, huh?
We've got kids from, I want to say 24 different countries, 14 different states. The reach is much more broad, right?
Right.
Obviously, but we don't have 1,200 students, right? We have 500 at the high school, right? So we have 270 boarding students and 240 local kids. And ultimately, you're trying to do something similar, right? And so my follow-up becomes how, with a school your size, right? I guess I would characterize you as like middle size, right? We're small. You
Yeah.
got the 3,000 student schools of the world. You're in the middle.
Yeah.
How do you all navigate the need for kids to play multiple sports in this era of sports specialization? Like for us, right, with 500, I need everybody to play everything, right? For you, you got a little more, you might be able to get away with it, but like, how are you either embracing or pushing back against the youth sports industrial complex?
Yeah, I'm never in favor of it, but you got to play in the system that you're given. When I was at Parker, we had 560 kids. We had a no cut policy for many of our sports just because coming from there's a need for everybody to be everywhere, right? So that's a no cut policy. If I start to make cuts, I'm not going to have a program, right? So now it becomes a commitment sport. If you're committed to being here, we're doing it, right? And I remember in my interview, I said that, and they were like, "We cut students here," and I was like, "I don't care. If we have the numbers to do it, we can still create programs. I don't mind cutting. I don't mind doing it then. We still have our commitment sports like track and cross country and swim, tennis and golf. There's still sports, wrestling, right? That you can still play as long as you're there for the whole year. For me, I think there's nothing more attractive to a college or to an employer than a multi-sport athlete. Somebody who can go from one discipline to the next and excel shows me that you have the grit and the determination necessary to learn something new, to work at it, to make sure you can become the best person you can be, and that your time management skills are good enough to deal with it. Our flag football team won CIF because it was a lot of our girls soccer and our softball girls, right? Girls soccer will end up being ranked top 10 in the county. Softball is ranked top first in the county right now. So if that means it's a new sport, but they wanted to try something new, right? The only way the flag football is going to survive is if we have multi-sport athletes. We don't have any specialized flag football players yet, right? But we don't have that. I would love our football players to wrestle in the winter. There's no reason for me why they shouldn't. If you have, if you're a defensive end and you're wiry, even if you're a slot wide receiver, right? You're in the 155 to 175, territory. There's no reason why you can't continue to one field contact, but also move your body in different ways that you're not just taking hit after hit, but you're still using your strength and working, right, your mind in different ways to win a 1v1 battle. When you're doing water polo, you probably could do baseball as well, right? Fall water polo, boys water polo, a baseball player. There's a lot of similar mo movements, but you're taking all that stress away of your body and running and everything, but you're still, like I was told by a basketball player who tried water polo this year, he said, "This is the hardest I've ever done in my life." And I said, "Yeah, because you're doing something that's brand new to your body, brand new to your mind, and you're having to learn how to adjust." When you have a club coach or even a high school coach who wants to do these 10-month long, 11-month long seasons where you're trying to take people away and they really just want your money, it hurts me to see that kids are not enjoying playing something different. Like I did football, basketball, football, soccer, and golf, right? I wish I would have tried basketball in high school, but soccer and basketball are the same thing. But anytime there was any type of anything playing, I was there. I wanted to do it, and that only made me a better athlete. I understand sport better. I understand strategy better because I see it different ways. And so if you're depriving yourself of that because you think specializing is going to get you a higher place in whatever college or whatever you're in, you're probably wrong. You're probably going to burn yourself out. I coached a kid who every day in middle school and elementary and middle school had a soccer ball at his feet. He walked with it to class. He dribbled into periods. He used to carry his cafeteria tray and dribble a soccer ball. By the time he got to his junior year, he quit soccer. He did nothing else. But what he did was he went to surf, and we had a club surf team at my last school. So he was became a surfer, and I had to beg him to come back and play his senior year because I said, this is not for anything in your future. It's just for fun. And when you take the fun element out, you can have your priority sport. If those softball girls know that they're going to go, which we have a lot of D1 softball players, that's your priority. Play flag football and have fun because you're still competing, you're still learning, you're still working for something, but you're just enjoying the being a part of it. Not saying that your number one priority sport can't be fun, because it should be, but you need to do something else that takes that little competitive edge off without you losing it. And if we can do that, and I mean, we have 750 student athletes, right? So we do share in a few different things. We do have kids that specialize. It's just the nature of how big we are. But the ones who are moving from sport to sport definitely stand out in each one of their teams that they're in. And I think that's the most important, just as a person, student athlete, to stand out in every space that you're in.
Absolutely. I want to go back to what you said about Parker and being a non-cut place. How did you navigate that logistically in regards to, you mentioned earlier, JVB? What if
Mhm.
there's nobody to play? Like, how are you navigating that? So, like right now, I'm gonna give context to land this is right. We have too many kids coming out for tennis than we can handle on the boys' side.
Yep.
There's no JV boys tennis teams anywhere within an hour and a half drive of us.
Got it.
So I, along with the coach, we basically created a training team that they just practice, right? They got no matches, they got whatever. It had 10 kids last year. This year it's got four because I don't know if it's people don't want to just train all the time or whatever, but there are logistics that get in the way of, oh, just add another team. It's okay, but who are they going to play?
And so I think when we're at Parker, we created like a roster limit, right? We said we have two coaches, we drive 9 passenger vans. That's our limit, right? We got 18 kids. And but with our girls volleyball team, we ended up having a novice team that essentially just played each other, right? If you can build say you build your tennis team, that training team out to, what do you guys, green and black, right? A green and a black squad, right? And so then every week they're playing each other, or every 2 weeks or whatever. Maybe that's the way to go about it. Are they doing this for credit? Are they doing this to get better? Are they doing it to have fun? Like those are the questions you have to ask yourself. Something that we talked about with Anthony was varsity is your AP sport, right? You have to have a prerequisite. You have to be recommended. You have to show quality in your work in order to make your varsity sport. Then within that AP class, you're expected to be at everything, right? You're expected to do all the work, even though it might seem like it's too much, but you've signed up for your AP class. We're going to be tested. You're going to be challenged. That's what it is, right? As you work your way down in your JV, in your novice, frosh, whatever you want to call it, that's when I won't say the expectations lessen, right? Because I think we still expect everything of our kids, but I think we soften how we grade, right? So you have the regular classes, a remedial class. I don't even know if people use the word remedial anymore, but you have to work up to those points, right? You have to work up that pyramid. And so if your JV team, what I did with my JV team was they would practice 4 days a week, so they get Friday through Sunday off. We try to play all of our games in there. Maybe there's a Saturday tournament, I give them the next Monday off, right? But that was what it was. When my novice team, they go 3 days, two practice in a game or two games in a practice. If now you have too big of a novice team, right? Say you have that volleyball team that and 20 girls want to come out. That's crazy. Okay, we're going to break them into a white and a blue squad, and they're going to scrimmage each other every week. And then if we're playing another novice team, then your team plays on Tuesday, this team plays their games on Thursday. You play each other on Wednesdays. And so that way you're just going all the way through and you're creating a system for them where they still have fun. They only need to come 3 days a week. If they're at that point as a sophomore, they might be able to get to varsity by their senior year if they stick with it. Chances are this is the last organized volleyball they're going to play in their life. So creating a system that one, they feel competitive, one, they feel like they're having fun, and they three that feel like they're getting better, that's the ultimate goal. Those who are already making it to or going varsity are probably on a different track already, probably. And with a school as big as ours, it's pretty evident early on who's going to be on that track and who's not. Now, boys can grow 6 inches. I grew 8 inches between my sophomore and junior year, right? So things happen, but you can tell what's going to happen. So if you just create that system, whether it's a novice system or JV system, your varsity can't compromise, right? Because that's what's preparing them for their futures and preparing us for it to go out. It's cool to have a no cut policy. It can create stress, especially if we can't find coaches to coach them. But if you create an inter squad kind of situation to where they're competing and they're keeping tally and they're creating their own little Stevenson Cup, whatever it is, they can figure it out.
Obviously, that doesn't transfer everywhere. So, what elements of that can you see fitting at modern day, and which ones would never work based on how you just described that? And just contextually, again, at schools like Parker and us, you're doing things for credit. Like you have to participate in the co-curricular, so you have to figure out how to land them. But at other places, it's no, actually, our novice team can't just be intramurals because we need them to fill out the varsity roster so that we can go compete.
Exactly. Yeah, it's with us and us in bigger schools that you might just have to be cut, right? There might just be a roster limit, right? That might just be the answer. And as much as we want to have something for everybody, I think it also diminishes what it means to make a roster, to work hard to get yourself to a point to that you're competing and you've earned a spot on a team. I think another I don't know what people's schedules are like. There's always intramurals that are happening on campus if you want to treat it like a college, right? And you compete within your own class or you compete within a group or a club that they created. But it's very hard to create that kumbaya nature the bigger you get. So if you're talking about a 4,000 person school that you just don't have the facilities for it. You don't have the resources for it, right? And so now it becomes more cutthroat in nature. You can still make sure everybody feels welcome, right? You can still make sure everybody is enjoying their time at the school. But what we do, if it doesn't work out, every season of sport, there's a commitment sport. You might not love to run, but cross country is always an option. You didn't make the basketball team, but they're still wrestling. Even right now, our soccer team is a commitment sport. Our soccer team had almost 80 kids in the program. And the coach had I won't say a difficult time, but he has to answer a lot of questions because our varsity team is 29 kids, right? Our JV has 50 kids that they're trying to split between these two and who plays and what and all that communication. There's a lot of kids, sometimes the message gets lost, right? But if now in the spring, lacrosse right now is still a commitment sport, right? Because we only have one team. Track, right? Between if you want to play golf, you have your own club, show up to the golf course every Monday, Wednesday and hit some balls, right? You might not play in a whole lot of matches, but you can continue to show up. And so I think that is where you find now maybe your track team turns into 150 kids and that becomes an issue, a whole nother issue. But if they want to compete for the school and they just want to do something, I think outside of roster limited sports, there is a place for them to play for your school and wear that badge on their chest.
Yeah, and it's the piece that you mentioned in regards to school size, because it's also the larger your school is, the more they tend to tip into specialization because the price of admission goes up so dramatically in regards to your ability level. And so that's the irony of the whole thing where I look at our wall every year in regards to who are Iron Pirates kids that have played 3 sports a year for 4 years. And we got 6 or 7 a year. And then a buddy of mine that's up in the Bay Area, they've had one kid since 2017 and they have 2,500 students. It's like, how is that possible? And it's this whole idea of you can't make that team unless you are doing the same thing everybody else is doing. And so where's your balance as a school? I'd laugh to myself while you were saying, like, how is golf a commitment sport? If you're not a scratch player, you're not making our team.
Yeah,
It's
there you go.
different.
And we have girls. Right now we have a girl who's going to go down to New Orleans to play, right? Division I college, and our rest of our girls are good. but we don't have a JV. They're not scratch players. You know what I mean? So it's that whole, I would love to have a three-sport athlete at any level. We might get one with one of our water polo, basketball, swimming players right now. So that's a good one where it's a bit of commitment, but also a bit of you have to compete and you have to have the right body and the right mindset for it. The bigger the pot is, the more competition there is, and the better you have to be at everything that you do. When I'm talking to kids about going to college, I tell them you can only have one of or two of three things. You can have a great social life, you can have great academics, or you can have a lot of sleep. You can't have all three. So it's the same thing here. You can either be really good at every one of your sports, but you're sacrificing either your academics, you're sacrificing actually hanging out with friends, you're sacrificing your sleep, your time management, right? If you want to be elite in everything, right? What a lot of kids end up doing is finding some one or two things to be more than good at, and then being able to balance out the rest of their life because you can't have all three. You can't have all three.
No, and I say that to kids too. It's like school, sports, social. You can only be good at two of the three. Choose.
Only two.
It's
You can
only
only be
two.
really good at two. And that's the choice you got to make. The choice you got to make.
Correct. And we're choosing academics and we're
Yes.
choosing sports. So your social life will happen in school and on your but
Sports team. That's it.
all right, two more questions. Number one is what have you most recently changed your mind on? Growth mindset question. How are you challenging your beliefs, especially in the world of polarization that we seem to have fallen into in the last 8 years? What's something where I used to be really dug in over here and now I'm over here and here's why?
Ooh.
And it doesn't have to be related to your job, to sports, anything in the wheelhouse where I changed my opinion because of this.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I'm typically patient to a fault, right? I typically wait way too long to do something. And that has been like I've been accused of being too nice on multiple occasions, right? Too patient. And I think being now in this position, and I have two children now, and we're building everything, I think my growth has been being more decisive. And it's really interesting because it's if I know something is right or wrong, I know I need to act on it. I can't sit for days or weeks or let it happen if it happens, right? I have to now in my position be a true decision maker, right? And that's knowing that I have a principal and a president of our school that, that if there's something that needs to make their way to them, I can still go to them. But if I need to act, I have the ability, the capability, I'm secure enough in my decision that I'm going to make the right one. You still need to discern with caution, and I still do typically try to do that. But I felt that in my growth as a leader and as a person, trying to be a tad bit more decisive, trying to be a bit more proactive in what I do has helped me kind of mitigate some issues that would come up, and whether it's a parent issue or coach issue or student athlete. If I see something, don't wait till it happens for me to get involved. It's work in progress for sure. I'm not great at it, right? This is new to me, but I'm hoping that this becomes a 25, 30-year career like it could be. That's going to help me in the long run. When I see something, I can have a little bit of foresight and vision. Oh, okay, this is what I want it to look like. This is how I get there.
No doubt. No, that's important, right? How do you prioritize what's important and urgent, and how do you act on those things? And yeah, that's part of the gig. All right, last one is more related to our task work, day-to-day logistics, things that are either pain points and or just part of the gig. What's the best tool you have adopted that you wouldn't know what to do without it anymore? And the examples that I have shared out for anyone listening. Calendly is great. You don't have to go back and forth about, hey, what works for you? What works for you? Just send them your calendar. And then the other one that I'm super bullish on is Otter AI, which records all your meetings, transcribes them, gives you task lists. I got my daughters using it in college, but I always offer those out. So what for you is something you've adopted that like you couldn't live without now?
It was funny because I just hired a new basketball coach, right? We're in the process. We're about to finalize hopefully next week. And I never use any kind of calendar. I ended up using Microsoft Bookings because we're a Microsoft Book or Microsoft Suite thing. But I was like, oh, this is great. And I just send out this link and then you choose when to talk to me. Oh, now this is, yeah, okay. I'm going to adopt that a little bit more. And we use that AI tool for every single one of our admin meetings too. My principal loves it. So I need to get on that too. I guess I'm still trying to figure out what's the best thing for me. How do I do my to-do notes, right? Like, how do I write? Do I do it on my calendar, on my board right here, or do I do it in my notes app? Like, I'm still working through it. I'll be completely honest. I've used Instateam for scheduling and for messaging now, right? So all of my coaches are on it. So I can look at my coaches, or I can tell my coaches, put your whole schedule into Instateam, and it goes through, it shows where they're practicing, who they're playing against, what their arrive time is, what their departure time is, all of that. So that one's been a good tool for us just to get everything in house because before it was on the website, it wasn't on the website. It was on home campus, it wasn't on home campus. But that way I can see it on the app or a desktop. I can see everything. I can message. We're having our signing day for our college athletes on Monday coming up. And I just sent out a message to every single one of those teams and say, hey, if you are going to college and you've signed, you're going to a 4 year, we're doing this, make sure you reach out to us so we can get all your information. So those type of things have helped just with scheduling and messaging. But personal day to day, I'm still trying to figure out what I need to do, how do I do it without my mind. As soon as you sit down in that chair, there's about 1,000 people that come into you after about 11 o'clock in the morning. There's everybody, as soon as that first break hits, everybody starts walking to the office asking questions. And that doesn't stop till 8 p.m. when typically the best time I work is 8 to 10 and from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. because that's the only time people aren't talking to me. The other 9 hours of that day, there's somebody asking me something about something. And it's not like I'm not a talkative person. So that one question turns into 16. And now I've wasted 35 minutes when all I needed to do was input schedules or do GoFan ticketing or whatever. And I know you're laughing because everybody who I'm sure is listening to this podcast understands how that is, where one thing snowballs into the other when my task list did not have any of those things that I did today.
I'm going to wrap with this. You didn't waste 35 minutes. You invested in relationships, and therefore it's coming back your way
Yeah,
eventually. All
I
right.
appreciate it.
Coach, I appreciate you taking the time and jumping on, man. It's been a long time. I'm glad we got it in.
Yeah, I'm really happy. Congrats to all you're doing, man. This is a really good idea, and I hope it continues to grow.